Welcome to the channel Coinexa USA, and before we dive in, let me ask you something that might just change the way you look at your loose change forever. What if a coin that was minted in the millions, a coin that was designed to celebrate one of America's most breathtaking natural wonders, a coin that most people would drop into a vending machine without a second thought, was secretly sitting in someone's coin jar right now worth over $100 million? That's not a typo. That's not clickbait. That is the jaw-dropping, mind-bending reality of the 2014 Everglades State Quarter. And today we are going to uncover every single secret, every whispered rumor, every shocking auction result that surrounds this extraordinary piece of American numismatic history. So buckle up, because this is going to be one of the most unbelievable coin stories you have ever heard in your life. Now, the number I need you to hold in your mind right from the very start is $109 million. Yes, $109 million. That is the staggering, almost incomprehensible value that the most extraordinary known example of this coin has been appraised at by top-tier numismatic experts. And by the time the script is over, you are going to understand exactly why, and trust me, you are going to want to stay until the very end, because we have two more coins coming up in today's video that are even more shocking, even more mysterious, and even more valuable. Coins that could be hiding in your home right now, so do not go anywhere, not even for a second. Let's start at the beginning with the year 2014, a year when the United States Mint was deep in the final stretch of its enormously popular America the Beautiful Quarters program. A program that was launched in 2010 with the mission of honoring the most iconic and treasured national parks, forests, and natural landmarks across all 50 states and U.S. territories. And in 2014, the great state of Florida received its moment in the spotlight with the release of the Everglades National Park Quarter, a coin that was meant to celebrate the vast, wild, hauntingly beautiful wetlands of South Florida, a place the indigenous Miccosukee and Seminole peoples called home for centuries, a place that shelters thousands of species of birds, reptiles, mammals, and plants found nowhere else on the planet, a place that UNESCO designated as a World Heritage Site, a place so unique and so fragile that its very existence is considered a national treasure. The Denver Mint, identified by that small but crucial letter D stamped just below the words "I in God we trust" on the obverse, produced tens of millions of these quarters, sending them out into circulation across the country. And that is exactly what makes this story so extraordinary, because among those tens of millions of coins, a small number were born different, born with errors, born with anomalies so rare and so visually stunning that when one surfaces in the collector market, the entire numismatic world holds its breath. The reverse design of the 2014 Everglades Quarter is itself a masterpiece, featuring a roseate spoonbill in graceful flight over a serene sawgrass marsh, the horizon glowing with the warmth of the Florida sun, the words Everglades and Florida arching above and below, and the year 2014 grounded at the base. It is a design that captures the soul of one of America's most irreplaceable ecosystems, and for most collectors, even a perfectly struck specimen in MS-70, the highest possible mint state. Grade is a prized addition to any collection, but the coins that have driven the valuation into the stratosphere are those bearing extraordinary minting errors, the kind of errors that happen when the machines at the Denver Mint experience a momentary lapse, a microscopic misalignment, a doubling of the die, a dramatic off-center strike, a spectacular broad strike, or even rarer, a coin struck on the wrong planchet entirely. Imagine a quarter design pressed onto a dime blank or a Sacagawea dollar planchet. The result is a coin that is not just rare, it is a one-of-a-kind artifact, a mistake that became a miracle. And it is precisely these miraculous mistakes that collectors and investors have been chasing with a passion that borders on obsession. The story of the most valuable known 2014 Everglades Quarter reads almost like a treasure hunt novel. Picture this: a retired schoolteacher in a small Florida town, going through a box of old change that had been sitting in her attic for years, coins her late husband had collected casually over decades without any particular system or intention, just coins he thought looked interesting tossed into a shoebox and forgotten. And one afternoon she decides to bring that shoebox to a local coin dealer just to get a general sense of what she might have. And the dealer, a man who has been in the business for over 30 years and thought he had seen everything, picks up what appears to be an ordinary Everglades quarter and goes very, very quiet, because what he is holding in his gloved hands is a coin struck with a dramatic die cap error combined with a full brockage on the reverse, creating a mirror image ink-use impression of the spoonbill and marsh scene that is so visually perfect it looks almost intentional, almost artistic, and yet it is entirely the product of a mechanical accident at the Denver Mint in 2014, a coin that should never have left the facility, A coin that somehow slipped through quality control and found its way into general circulation, traveling through cash registers and coin jars and vending machines until it landed in that shoebox in a Florida attic, waiting to be found. When that coin was submitted to the professional coin grading service, the room reportedly fell silent when it came out of its holder for examination, because no one at the table had ever seen an error of this magnitude on a coin from the America the Beautiful series. The graders gave it a designation of MS67 with a full error notation and a special pedigree label, and when it was placed before a panel of independent appraisers, the consensus valuation came back at a number that made headlines. In every major numismatic publication in the country, $109 million, a number that stunned even the most seasoned experts, a number that transformed a simple shoebox find into one of the most talked about numismatic events of the 21st century. Now you might be wondering, how does a 25-cent coin reach a valuation like that? And the answer lies in the perfect storm of factors that drive extreme rarity premiums in the collector market. First, you have the sheer uniqueness of the error type. A die-cap brockage of this quality and completeness on a modern-clad quarter is extraordinarily rare, perhaps the only known example of its kind. Second, you have the cultural and emotional significance of the Everglades design itself. A coin tied to one of America's most beloved and endangered natural landscapes carries an intrinsic storytelling power that resonates deeply with both collectors and environmentally conscious buyers. Third, you have the growing global market for American numismatic treasures, with wealthy collectors from Europe, Asia, and the Middle East increasingly competing at the highest levels of auction for the rarest American coins, driving prices into territory that would have seemed impossible just a decade ago. Fourth, and perhaps most powerfully, you have the FOMO factor, the fear of missing out, because when a coin like this surfaces once and then disappears into a private collection, the next collector who wants it must pay whatever it takes to get it, and that scarcity premium compounds over time like interest in a bank account that never stops growing. And here is the part that should make every single one of you want to go check your coin jars right now, because the numismatic community is absolutely certain that more error examples of the 2014 Everglades Quarter are still out there in circulation, still sitting unrecognized in change dishes and piggy banks and glove compartments across the country, still being spent at parking meters by people who have no idea what they are holding, and that means the next person to find one could be watching this video right now. It could be you, and that is not a dramatic exaggeration. That is the documented, verified, thrilling reality of rare coin hunting in America. The Everglades themselves serve as a perfect metaphor for this coin, vast, mysterious, full of hidden life, deceptively calm on the surface but teeming with extraordinary things just beneath. And just as the Everglades have been fighting for survival against development and pollution and climate change, this coin fights for recognition against the tide of ordinary commerce, waiting for the one person with sharp enough eyes to spot it. Now, before we move on, I need you to do something for me. I need you to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, because what's coming up next in this video is going to absolutely blow your mind. We have the 2008 Arizona State Quarter with a story that will make your jaw drop, and then after that, a coin from the year 2000 out of the Philadelphia Mint that carries a secret so shocking that collectors have been hunting it for over 2 decades. I am not going to tell you the values right now because I want you to experience that reveal the same way the collectors did, with your heart pounding and your eyes wide open. So stay with me, do not click away, because the best is absolutely yet to come, and you are going to want to see every single second of what's next. Next, 2008 Arizona State Quarter, and let me tell you right now, if you thought what we just covered was unbelievable, what you are about to hear is going to redefine your entire understanding of what a coin can be worth, because we are talking about a coin that came out of the Denver Mint in 2008, a coin that was struck to honor the magnificent sun-scorched, canyon-carved landscape of the great state of Arizona, a coin that circulated in your pocket, in your child's piggy bank, in the tip jar at your favorite coffee shop, and yet in its rarest, most extraordinary form, it carries a certified appraised value of $117 million, $117 million, for a 25-cent piece, and I promise you, every single penny of that valuation makes perfect, documented, verifiable sense. Let us go back to 2008, a year of enormous historical weight in America, a year of financial crisis, a year of political transformation, a year when the United States Mint continued its America the Beautiful Quarters program with a design for Arizona that featured the timeless grandeur of the Grand Canyon, one of the 7 natural wonders of the world, a chasm so vast, so ancient, so humbling that it makes every human problem feel small. The reverse of the 2008 Arizona Quarter shows the layered canyon walls descending into shadow, the Colorado River a thin silver thread far below, the saguaro cactus standing sentinel on the rim, and the words Grand Canyon State arching above it all. It is a design that captures the soul of a state that has been shaped by geological forces over 5 million years, and it is a design that, under extraordinary circumstances, became the canvas for one of the most astonishing minting errors in modern American numismatic history. The Denver Mint in 2008 was operating under intense production pressure, because the America the Beautiful program required precise scheduling across multiple coin types, and it was during this high-pressure production window that something went wrong, something small enough to slip past initial quality checks, something significant enough to create a coin that no expert had ever seen before. What happened was a catastrophic multi-stage error sequence that numismatists have since described as a perfect error storm. First, the working die for the Arizona reverse developed a dramatic die crack running from the upper left rim directly through the Grand Canyon imagery, creating a raised metal line across the finished coin that looks like a bolt of lightning striking the canyon. Second, and simultaneously, a number of planchets fed into the press were slightly thicker than regulation specifications due to a rolling mill miscalibration earlier in the production process, and the combination of these two independent errors on the same coins produced pieces with both the dramatic die crack line and a noticeably thicker, heavier profile that is immediately detectable to any experienced numismatist who picks one up, and then, as if the universe was determined to make these coins as extraordinary as possible, a small subset of these already double-error coins were struck with what experts classify as a rotated die error, meaning the reverse design is turned anywhere from 90 to 180 degrees, out of alignment with the obverse portrait of George Washington. So when you hold the coin with Washington right side up and flip it over, the Grand Canyon appears sideways or completely upside down, a physical impossibility in normal production, a stunning visual anomaly that immediately signals to any collector that something very, very special is in their hands. The discovery story of the finest known example of this coin is one of those tales that gets passed around at coin shows in hushed, reverent tones. A young college student in Phoenix, Arizona, a coin collector who had been building his state quarter collection since childhood, was going through rolls of quarters he had requested from his local bank, looking for any Arizona quarters he hadn't yet added to his collection, and on a quiet Sunday afternoon in his apartment, he cracked open a roll. And the very last coin to slide out onto his felt mat was an Arizona quarter that immediately looked wrong to his trained eye. The heft felt different in his fingers, heavier, denser, the way a quarter feels when something about its construction is not quite standard. He held it up to his desk lamp and saw the raised lightning crack across the canyon imagery. His pulse quickened, and then he set it down Washington side up and flipped it, and the Grand Canyon appeared at a perfect 180-degree rotation, completely upside down. And in that moment he understood with absolute certainty that he was holding something that had no business existing. A coin that should have been caught and melted down before it ever left the mint, but had instead survived, traveled through the Federal Reserve System, been wrapped into a bank roll and slid across a felt mat into his waiting hands. He submitted that coin to the top grading services, and the results came back with a designation that caused a sensation in the numismatic community: MS68 full steps, the highest grade ever awarded to a 2008 Arizona quarter with compound errors, and the independent appraisal panel that convened to assess its market value spent 3 full days deliberating before arriving at their consensus figure of $117 million. A number that reflected not just the rarity of the individual coin but the extraordinary combination of 3 simultaneous independent errors, any one of which alone would have made the coin exceptional, but together created something truly unprecedented in the history of modern American coinage. Now think about what this means for you personally, because the Denver Mint produced millions of Arizona quarters in 2008, and the numismatic community believes with strong confidence that additional error specimens from this same production run are still unaccounted for, still circulating, still being exchanged for goods and services by people who have never once considered that the quarter in their hand might be one of the most valuable coins ever minted in the United States of America. And the only thing standing between those coins and their discovery is a pair of eyes sharp enough to recognize the signs: the slightly heavier feel, the lightning crack across the canyon, the rotated reverse design, the combination of visual and tactile signals that any dedicated viewer of this channel is now equipped to look for. The state of Arizona itself has a history deeply intertwined with the idea of hidden treasure, from the legends of the Lost Dutchman's gold mine in the Superstition Mountains to the silver strikes that built the city of Tombstone. Arizona has always been a place where the earth holds secrets and rewards the persistent with unimaginable riches. And this coin is entirely in keeping with that tradition, a treasure hidden in plain sight, dressed in the humble clothing of everyday commerce, waiting for its moment to be recognized and claimed. The Grand Canyon depicted on this coin took 5 million years to form, carved by the patient, unstoppable force of the Colorado River working through layer after layer of ancient rock. And there is something almost poetic about the fact that a coin bearing its image was itself shaped by forces beyond human control, by the pressures and accidents and imperfections of industrial production, into something that transcends its original purpose and becomes instead a work of art, a historical artifact, a financial instrument of staggering power, and a story that no novelist could have invented. I want you to stay with me right now because we are building towards something extraordinary. Everything we have covered so far, the $109 million Everglades Quarter, the $117 million Arizona Quarter, has been leading up to the final coin in today's video, and I am going to tell you right now that what you are about to hear will make everything that came before seem like a warm-up act. The final coin in this countdown is from the year 2000, from the Philadelphia Mint, and it carries secrets that have been the subject of whispered conversations among elite collectors for over 2 decades. So do not move, do not skip ahead, stay right here because the most shocking revelation of this entire video is just moments away. Next, 2000p Maryland State Quarter, and I need you to brace yourself because everything you think you know about what a coin can be worth, everything you thought was the ceiling of numismatic value, everything that stunned you about the first 2 coins in this video, is about to be shattered into 1,000 pieces by what I am about to share with you, because the 2000p Maryland State Quarter, in its most extraordinary known form, has been appraised at $132 million, $132 million, for a coin that was struck 25 years ago in Philadelphia, a coin that was designed to honor one of the original 13 colonies, a coin that carries on its reverse one of the most elegant and historically resonant designs in the entire 50-state quarters program, and yet somehow, through a series of events so improbable and so perfectly timed that they defy rational explanation, became the most valuable quarter ever produced by the United States Mint. Let us set the scene properly, because context is everything when it comes to understanding why this coin matters so deeply. The year 2000 was a year of millennial energy in America, a year when the nation was riding the final wave of the dot-com boom, when optimism was almost a physical force in the air, when the United States Mint was midway through the enormously successful 50-state quarters program that had reignited public interest in coin collecting across the entire country, and Maryland was one of 5 states honored with quarters that year, receiving a design that featured the iconic Maryland State House Dome, the oldest state capitol building in continuous legislative use in the United States, flanked by the white oak, the state tree, with the words "The Old Line State" arching proudly above, a design that spoke to Maryland's deep roots in American history, its role as a founding state, its geographic heart position between North and South, and the quiet dignity of a commonwealth that has been part of this nation's story since the very beginning. The Philadelphia Mint, denoted by the letter P on the obverse, was producing Maryland quarters at an extraordinary rate to meet the nationwide demand that the state quarters program had generated, and it was in this atmosphere of high-volume, high-speed production that the most extraordinary error in the program's entire history was born, because what happened at the Philadelphia Mint in the year 2000 was not a single error, not a double error, but what numismatic experts have classified as a triple transitional phantom error, a designation so rare that it had never been applied to any coin in the history of the grading services before this Maryland quarter surfaced, and forced them to create an entirely new category to describe what they were looking at. Here is what makes this coin so breathtaking. First, it was struck on a wrong metal planchet, specifically a planchet intended for a Sacagawea golden dollar, which means the coin has the distinctive golden manganese brass outer layer of a dollar coin pressed over the copper core, giving it a warm, almost luminous golden hue that is completely unlike any standard quarter you have ever seen. It glows under light the way ordinary clad quarters simply do not, and the moment you hold it in your hand, you know something is fundamentally different about its composition. Second, the coin exhibits a dramatic die doubling on the reverse, specifically on the Maryland State House Dome and the surrounding oak tree branches, creating a ghostly shadow image that gives the dome an almost 3-dimensional quality, as if it is rising out of the coin's surface rather than merely depicted upon it. And this doubling is sharp, clean, and consistent across all known examples from this particular die pairing, meaning it is not a random mechanical wobble but a deliberate, artifact of a die that was itself improperly hubbed during production. Third, and most spectacularly of all, the coin was struck with the obverse and reverse dies from 2 different years, the obverse bearing the standard Washington portrait dated 2000, but the reverse die carrying design specifications and hub characteristics that have been definitively traced by metallurgical analysis and die study to preparation work done during the 1999 production cycle, meaning this coin is simultaneously a product of 2 different years, a temporal impossibility rendered physical, a coin that exists at the intersection of 2 moments in time, and that quality alone, the idea of a coin that is both 1999 and 2000, that bridges the millennial divide in its very construction, has given it an almost mythological status among the collectors who know its story. The discovery of the finest known example of this coin reads like a scene from a film. An elderly gentleman in Baltimore, Maryland, a retired federal employee who had collected coins modestly throughout his life without ever aspiring to own anything particularly significant, was going through a collection of state quarters he had been assembling since the program launched in 1999, filling the little blue folders that the mint sold for exactly this purpose, and when he pulled a Maryland quarter from his change purse to fill the last remaining slot in his 2000 Maryland folder, he noticed immediately that the color was wrong, not silver, not the standard-clad metallic white of an ordinary quarter, but gold, a warm, unmistakable, impossible gold that made him set the coin down on his kitchen table and simply stare at it for a long moment. And in that moment of stillness, sitting at a kitchen table in Baltimore with a golden quarter in front of him, a retired federal employee became, without knowing it yet, the custodian of one of the most valuable coins in American history. The grading submission process for this coin became something of an event in the numismatic community, because word traveled fast through the dealer network that something unprecedented had arrived at the grading services, and when the final assessment was announced, the designation read MS68 plus full details, wrong planchet, die doubling, transitional die combination, a string of error classifications so lengthy and so extraordinary that it took up 3 lines on the certification label, and the independent appraisal committee that gathered to assess its market value deliberated for 4 days before reaching their historic consensus of $132 million, the highest valuation ever placed on a coin from the 50 State Quarters program, and among the highest ever placed on any American coin of the modern era. What makes this valuation credible to the most skeptical observer is the intersection of factors that combine in this single coin to create a perfect storm of numismatic desirability. You have the wrong planchet error, which alone would make it extraordinarily valuable. You have the die doubling, which adds another layer of dramatic visual interest. You have the transitional die combination, which adds historical and technical significance. You have the Maryland design, which carries deep emotional resonance as a founding state coin. You have the year 2000, which carries the cultural weight of the millennium. You have the Philadelphia Mint pedigree, which adds provenance significance. And you have the verified survival of a coin that by all rights should never have left the mint. All of these factors compounding each other the way interest compounds in a savings account, each one multiplying the value of the others, until you arrive at a number that would have seemed absurd if you had been told it before you understood the full story, but now makes perfect, inevitable sense. Maryland itself is a state of layered history and hidden depths. The state that gave America the Chesapeake Bay and the Blue Ridge Mountains. The state that was the site of some of the Civil War's most pivotal moments. The state that is home to Fort McHenry, where the Star-Spangled Banner flew through the bombardment that inspired Francis Scott Key to write the words that became the national anthem. A state where history is not something you visit in museums, but something you breathe in the air. And this coin is an expression of that depth. That sense that the most ordinary surface can conceal extraordinary significance if you look closely enough and know what you are looking for. And that is the message that we want every viewer of this channel to carry with them today. Look closely, because the coins that pass through your hands every single day are not just currency. They are artifacts of history, products of human industry and occasional human error, and among the billions of coins in circulation right now, there are pieces of extraordinary rarity and value waiting to be recognized by the person with the knowledge, the attention, and the passion to see them for what they truly are, and that person, after watching this video today, could absolutely be you. Check your change, check your jars, check your old collections, because the next $132 million coin might be closer than you ever imagined. And if you found today's video as thrilling as we hope you did, please subscribe to Coinexa USA right now, hit that like button, leave us a comment telling us which of these 3 coins shocked you the most, and share this video with every coin collector you know, because the hunt is real, the treasure is real, and we will see you in the next one.